AlAmmar, Hind Alaodini, Aziza Al-Essa, Areej Al-Hawamdeh, Khairia Al-Qahtani, and Abeer Hussain. If you scan the QR code, you'll see the full article that was published a couple of years ago. We've done kind of this multi-dialect study in a number of different communities. You can see on the map 2 communities in Jordan, Amman and Souf, as well as in Saudi Arabia, Medina, Jeddah, Ha'il, Qahtan, Dammam, and Al-Essa. I'm not going to talk about each of them individually, you'll see in a moment. When we talk about language change, we can talk about internal and external constraints. This is true for all languages. This is a generalization made by James Milroy. And he says it's been quite usual to speak of historical descriptions as consisting of 2 types, internal and external. And if we are interested in how language states can remain stable, and how speech communities resist change, we have no alternative but to take account of social factors. So there's a table here which I'm not going to go through the entirety of, showing a number of different sound changes that occurred in different dialects, some in Jordan, some in the Arabian Peninsula, including Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. And some of these we can view as counterintuitive changes, and in particular these. So I'm going to talk about each of them individually, but in general we're talking about the jim sound, which in some dialects is traditionally ya, as in yum'a rather than jum'a, but it's changing back to jum'a in some dialects, for instance in Al-Essa and Dammam. And we're also talking about the ch, ts, z, and j that are changing to k and g in various dialects. So let's start with the jim. As Syrian dialects, where it's not j, it's just j, juma. For the kaf, we have the regular ka, but we also have, instead of kef, we have words like chef and sef in some dialects. And for the qaf, as most of you will know, it's rarely pronounced qa, as in Lugha al-Arabiya al-Fusha, but it's usually pronounced in other ways, such as j or za in some Saudi dialects, in some urban Levantine dialects, ka or ka in some sedentary rural dialects, and of course, g, which is what you're all probably accustomed to hearing in spoken Arabic. We have 2 types of change in general. We have a process of lenition, where the pronunciation is weakening. So if you can think of jadda as having a strong ja, jadda and yadda are lenited forms, they're weakened forms. Kef has a strong k, but chef and sef are softer, and so on. But we also have fortition, which is more surprising. So if your mother in some dialects is ummits, well, we also know that it's in many other dialects ummik, and in the dialects that have ummits, it's gradually changing back to ummik. Change in general, we have a process of lenition where the pronunciation is weakening. So if you can think of jadda as having a strong ja, jadda and yadda are lenited forms, they're weakened forms. Kef has a strong k, but chef and sef are softer, and so on. But we also have fortition, which is more surprising. So if your mother in some dialects is ummits, well, we also know that it's in many other dialects ummik, and in the dialects that have ummits, it's gradually changing back to ummik. And for the just one example with the ga, so we have badzin, which is bagin or baqin. And again, we have badzin, which is a softer form, a lenited form, and it is hardening or fortifying in some dialects. Now, the historical process, the Awesso tribe in Dammam, and we see that children were taught explicitly not to use their local pronunciation of jim as yim,
because it is not socially acceptable. Similarly, we have Najdis in the Hijazi city of Jeddah, and as Aziza has found, we have younger women who are leading the change from its to ik, particularly, not only, but particularly in this suffix, right? So think of beitik, your house, beitits, your house as well, for feminine. And this pattern, again, is shifting away from these people's local dialect to a broader supra-local dialect that's spoken in the big city, in Jeddah in this case. And we have similar issues with some other consonants. For instance, as Khairia Al-Qahtani has found in Tiham Al-Qahtan in the south, there are differences between women and men. And what we see is that men, in this case, tend to preserve a more traditional, localized pronunciation, even though they are mobile. And the interesting thing is that in this particular village, men go to the larger cities and sell particularly their honey and livestock. And because they interact with members of the broader community, they feel a need to authenticate themselves by using a local variant of certain linguistic features. Whereas women who are less mobile, who are staying in the village, but gradually enjoy more opportunity. William Labov, who pioneered the field of sociolinguistics. And again, his comments were general, not necessarily about Arabic, but he said social factors are the antecedent conditions that govern and condition the change. They may involve or affect the speaker's state of mind, and that state of mind may very well bear upon the behavior that implements the change. Now you may ask, what does all this have to do with anything that is beyond the narrow mind of the linguist? Well, here's the thing. Dialect, language preservation, language heritage is part of cultural heritage at large. If you want to tie this into the digital age, digital humanities, although not AI again, it is only with the assistance, with the use of modern technology and computational tools like statistical programs that we're able to tease out these things. When one goes into the community and hears one sound here and one sound there, Jum'a, Yum'a, Gahwe, Zahwe, Jahwe, and so forth, they might think, okay, people speak differently. But we actually have the tools nowadays to measure these things. View that through the mirror of language. And I'll just say one final word. Yeah, this is in memoriam of Bill Labov, you can put it there. Just one final word. We have tried in recent years not only to conduct research on Arabic in light of studies, scientific studies done on other languages. What we are also trying to do, and I think we're succeeding, is to show the world how linguistic phenomena, linguistic features that are typical of Arabic, and are typical of Arabic in different places, at different times, and by different generations, and different social groups, actually feeds back into the general study of language. And I think you'll all be happy to know that in recent years we've had a good host of PhD students and more mature, we could say, scholars who have been working on the various dialects of Saudi Arabia and trying to tease out how the different dialects relate to one another, how change in one dialect can lead to change in another, and how all of this can inform the general study of language. Thank you.